This is Olympian Studios bringing you our weekly broadcast of weaving a solid web, tips and tricks to keep your oikos
and your man
happy. We're your host, Hera, goddess of marriage, queen of the Olympians.
And Aphrodite, goddess of love and intimacy. Girls, you know what I mean.
Today we have a very interesting topic concerning marital fidelity and what to do when your husband doesn't take it seriously.
And our guest is Medea, a former princess from the East whose husband has put her in a tricky situation. The two were exiled due to former crimes committed against their families and a number of other unfortunate souls. But now Jason has abandoned her and their two children, intent on taking the hand of the princess of Corinth, Glauce.
Medea, why don't you fill us in on your side of the story and how you're feeling right now?
Thanks for having me. So, as you said, I met Jason back home in Colchis while he was on his now famous quest for the Golden Fleece. What he doesn't seem to remember is how he would have never succeeded in that quest if it weren't for me. I betrayed my family for him, leaving my home for a foreign land. I have become a murderer many times over for this man, who now cast me aside. The blood of my brother and Jason's own usurping uncle are on my hands. I killed Peleus so that Jason could regain his throne, but we were driven from his rightful kingdom. During that time, we got married and we had 2 children, but we still weren't welcome anywhere because of our crimes. Now we're settled in Corinth, and all of a sudden Jason claims that our marriage wasn't binding, and that he is going to accept the king's offer of his daughter's hand in marriage, abandoning me and our children. He claims that I am overreacting and that he is doing this to help our family. But I don't believe it, and I don't know where to go from here.
Wow. Sounds like you found yourself between Scylla and Charybdis.
It sure does, Aphrodite. So now we'll start taking some calls from listeners to hear their opinions and advice.
Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from
An inmate of the Fields of Punishment.
This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges.
Ooh, caller from the Fields of Punishment sounds naughty. We'll accept the charges. Hello, caller. You are on the air.
Do you have any advice to offer Medea? What would you do in her situation?
Hello. Yes. This is Clytemnestra calling in from the underworld. And I do have some advice. No one will ever listen to you. You will never be believed, no matter how often you tell them that you speak the truth. Since your words will not be sufficient, you can only take action. Your words will never bring a man to justice, and so do what I did. Take matters into your own hands and plunge a knife through his wretched heart.
Okay, I think there's been some sort of misunderstanding here. This show is about keeping the family together.
But what happens when your husband is the one to tear the family apart? Is it still our responsibility to hold it together? How are we wives meant to hold the house together when we have none of the power and no say in the matter? We are always the ones who are blamed when it is not our fault. I found justice in the only way I could and will forever be considered the worst wife and the worst mother when my only fault was protecting my family from a murderous father. And meanwhile, my husband comes home with his young war trophy of a concubine. How did he hold up his end of keeping our family together?
Listen, I am no stranger to an unfaithful husband who cares less for his oikos than for any young thing on 2 legs.
Or 4. We all know Zeus is thinking with what's between his legs rather than between his ears.
Regardless, I do not condone or engage in marriagicide. There is a better way to assuage your anger. Do you think I stood aside while my husband had his dalliances in the meadows? Change your target and go after the girl. Men will not change. It is in their nature to seek pleasure outside the marriage bed, but a woman should know better. Right, Aphrodite?
I couldn't agree less, at least as far as my personal appetite is concerned. The body wants what the body wants. And babes, my marriage won't stop me.
I thought we were talking about my problem.
Yes, right. What I mean to say is that you must exact your revenge on Glauce, not your husband. When she is gone, maybe he will come back to you.
So, moving on from marriage-aside, we'll be back right after this commercial break.
Skin feeling dry? Need a new signature scent to attract a new client base? Omega oils for the professional woman. Omega.
Welcome back. We're here with Medea and hearing the opinions of our listeners on her situation. Our next caller is from the goat-strewn rocks of Ithaca. Penelope, you're on the air.
Hello. I know what it's like to leave your home and have a heroic husband who comes and goes while you are expected to sit pretty at the loom. You're surrounded by strangers, sometimes broody and bossy strangers. But you are the wife of a high-status man and expected to act like one. Your behavior influences his reputation. It means that you suffer because you are trapped in this situation where everyone is watching but nobody is listening. You are never alone and you cannot speak against the structure that is in place. I will tell you what my mother told me on my wedding day. Water does not resist. Water flows. Water is not a solid wall. It will not stop you. But water always goes where it wants to go, and nothing in the end can stand against it. You should be patient, Medea. You should play your part well and stay silent. That is how you will protect yourself, by acting as a good wife.
You speak of wives, but I am not a wife, at least not according to him. I gave him 2 sons to continue his line. I cannot suffer in silence. This will ruin the little reputation I have left, and that of his children. If he marries this woman, then I will have to leave this land and take my children with me.
So just leave them. People are going to talk about you no matter what you do, so enjoy it.
Preach it, sister.
Get off the other line, Helen.
This isn't about fun anymore. This is about justice. Jason owes everything to me. His quest for his fleece would have failed many times over without my help. His name would mean nothing today if not for me. And yet he thinks that I am indebted to him? He says this is all in the name of his sons and our family's well-being. But when he marries the princess, our children will be illegitimate and our reputations, mine and the children's, will be ruined. I don't know how to talk to him. He says I'm overreacting, that I'm crazy. And he says he will leave us more than enough money, but all the money in the world couldn't buy me and the children citizenship, protection, or happiness.
All right, maybe we should take another caller. You're on the air.
I don't know what to do. I'm of 2 minds. I desire and I crave. Because you are dear to me, marry a younger woman. I don't dare live with a younger man. I'm older. Death is an evil. That's what the gods think, or they would die. I will tell you, someone will remember us in the future.
Sappho, is that you? We're only getting fragments.
Sorry, Sappho, we're gonna have to hang up. We have Naira on the line for when we come back.
Come to beautiful Seeger, Ithaca, where the land is fertile and everything grows freely. The soil is great for farming, with hardly a rock in sight in the fields. Join us in Ithaca, a wonderful place to raise a family. Brought to you by the Ithacan Tourism and Immigration Council.
Welcome back to Weaving a Solid Web. We're still here with Medea trying to figure out how she should navigate that tricky situation she's been put in by her husband, Jason. Hello, Naira. You are on the air.
I've been listening to the show and the women who called in before me, and I'm sympathetic to their situations and understand the advice that they have given and why. But I also believe that none of them truly understand the position that you're in. They don't know what it is to be a foreign woman in Greece and face the reality of being sold into slavery and seeing their children's futures destroyed. Clytemnestra killed her husband, yes. But she was supported by Aegisthus and protected in part by her high-class standing. You can't make such a violent move against your family as you're a foreigner all alone without allies. Nor can you stay, as Penelope has suggested, because you will likely be exiled by the king. I have no advice to offer you. Only my deepest regrets and the knowledge that you are not alone.
Good grief, that was depressing. Thanks, Naira, but our listeners are looking to hear a sob fest. Hesiod? What are you doing here?
Oh, whoops, looks like we got the wrong room. This is Olympian Studios, right?
Yes, Pandora. Hesiod. This is Olympian Studio Network show, Weaving a Solid Web. Tips and tricks to keep your Oikos happy.
I'm here to give a talk about sailing. It's going to be broadcasted nationally on Alopex Angilia, alternative facts for men.
Well, as you can see, you're in the wrong place. We're on the air with Medea, so you'd better leave.
Well, if this is a discussion about marriage, no one knows more about that subject than I. Marry at the right age. Marry her young so you can train and tame her. teaching her prudent ways. I found the girl next door to be a wise choice, but it's always best to have a look around the neighborhood to be sure she doesn't make a joke out of you. Well, there's nothing more I love than to see the institution of marriage put a bridle on a young woman. Nobody here is looking for a wife, good or bad.
Yes, we were talking about the Jason issue.
Oh, Jason! What an excellent young man! Just tremendous. You couldn't be more lucky. He must have taught you all about our great customs and civilized your barbaric tendencies. What you need to understand is that you women are a terrible burden on society. You're all freeloaders eating our grains and draining us dry. But when that bastard Prometheus set things in motion, we had to plow the land. The seed was buried in the earth.
Okay, Hesiod, you're running late for the sailing talk, so I think you better get going. But interesting contribution. We all found it very thought-provoking. Really some good food for thought. Sorry about that interruption. He's not very good at reading an audience. Bit of a mansplainer, isn't he?
Actually, I'm used to it. It was almost as if Jason were speaking to me. They speak with such arrogance that you forget your own arguments. You're made to sound like a fool, or a child, or out of control, illogical and emotional, with no ground to stand on. But Hesiod and Jason, they're the ones who don't know what they're talking about. They speak as though they're experts, but they only see one side of things. We are not really people to them, but prizes to win, or animals to tame. We're symbols of their reputations and their power.
If it is revenge that you want, then perhaps I have something to offer. Do you know my story?
Yes, of course. Everyone does.
They say that when I opened the jar and sickness and misery flew out, that I clamped the lid shut just in time to keep hope inside. You know what that hope is. You know what it represents and what it means to men. They live on through this hope. It is their future, and you have the power to take that future away. Unseal the lid and let hope out of the jar. This will be your vengeance.
I think I know what you mean.
No. Pandora, do you have somewhere to be?
Hera, do you think we could just cut that part out later?
Yeah, don't worry. We'll edit it when it goes to podcast. We can't be a host of a show containing filicide.
I knew we should have had Demeter as the guest. She's a much safer choice.
Yes, better for the ratings. This Medea Jason issue is just a bit too risque. You're telling me?
So, anyways, folks, that's all we have for today. We've run out of time, so tune in next week to hear Nausicaa taking calls from potential suitors.
Thanks for listening. This is Weaving a Solid Web. Good night from your host, Hera.
And Aphrodite.
Come on down to Crazy Catepus's Added Pottery Barn. The clay is so fine it'll blow your mind. We've got it all. Red figure, black figure, craters with fun pictures at the bottom to spice up your symposiums. Like prostitutes jumping onto dildos. A fun little Medusa head. Anything you can imagine, we've got it over here in Attica. So come on down to Crazy Catepus's Added Pottery Barn today.